everybody's year is off to a great start, and we're thrilled to be representing you before the 2023 legislature this next year. So in addition to that, one of the things that we've always been trying, and I know many of you have been with us for a really, really long time, and for those of you that are local, we are, celebrating 20 years of being in business. Sometimes I can't believe that I'm that old, but yes, indeed I am. And so for those of you that are local, we are having a celebration tomorrow. So please remember to come and join us down at Twisted Vine if you can, from 4 to 6. But to get us started, so one of the things over my 20 years of doing this and is trying to do continuous improvement. And so many of you have given us recommendations over the years and told us what you need to make it easier, not only for you to track bills, to understand and know, the bills that we're giving you, how do you understand legislative process, all of those sorts of things. And so this year we were introduced to Rich Goldman, and Rich is going to be walking you through this in just a few minutes. But we had an opportunity to visit with Rich about what he does and how that might benefit not only us as your lobbying team, because I know you guys know we work really hard to make sure that we provide you accurate, timely information during session. Sometimes there's a lot of challenges that come with that because it's not always on our timeline, or information's not readily available, or we have it, but we've not gotten it into a system and that sort of thing. And so technology has allowed us to really move to the next level. And that's where Rich comes in with what he's been able to do, not only with other lobbying teams here in Iowa, but with others across the country. And so the system is Advocate, and I'll let Rich talk a little bit more about that. But our whole goal is to, increase efficiencies and timeliness. And, the biggest thing is allowing you each to be able to log in, look at the bills that you've identified that you're interested in tracking. You're going to be able to get live updates in real time on those. You're going to be able to see committee and subcommittee meetings and then where they're located and all of that sort of stuff. So I'm getting into a little bit into the weeds, so I don't want to do that. I'm going to leave that to Rich. So I'm going to I'm going to turn it over to Rich, but know that we'll have an opportunity for Q&A at the end. But I really appreciate you guys logging in and learning a little bit more about what we're going to be able to offer in a much better system moving forward. So Rich, the floor is yours.
Thanks. All right, cool. So let me get my screen share going here. All right, so I'm going to start off with is what I think is going to be one of your main communications here. All right, so in the spirit of being efficient, I'm going to kind of show you what I think this this new workflow that Advocate's going to provide and how I think it's going to save everybody and make things more organized. So each day, right, Nick, Teresa, Chelsea, they're all going to come in and, review the legislation, tell you what matters, right? And now they're going to be able to very efficiently send you a nice email, okay, summarizing, here's the bills we tracked for you that day, right? So you're going to get the title, a link to the bill page, right? Quick, summary about that legislation, okay? And you're going to be able to review that in your email. And if you want, you can just hit reply, with whatever feedback you want to provide. Now, one of the cool features that we added is to make this more mature, right? As you see, you're going to be able to, if you want, we're going to provide you the link here, is that you can log into this portal, okay? And what this is going to do is going to give you access to all your legislative data in a hopefully useful, efficient way. So here, you're going to be able to create a client report whenever you want it, right? So click client report. And again, I'm just kind of giving you a quick introduction and then I'll go into a little more detail. Right, so we're going to have your bill tracker. You're going to have your upcoming subcommittee meetings here. recent legislative action. So if there's a bill that had a status update in the past week, that'll be here. And then here's all your just remaining bills that are just alive. So you're going to get the bill, its description, its current status, right? And notice here, there's going to have the position, if you've given one, and any notes that might have been entered about that legislation. All right. Now, you're then also going to have this table here. A couple things to notice about this table of legislation. First off, you'll notice that it is not in bill number order. So what this system is going to do is any bill that you have not yet taken a position on is going to get sorted and stuck at the top. The idea here being is that everyone wants you to log in and give us a position, give us a declaration. All right. Now, but as part of the streamlining here, let's suppose you come in and say, okay, this bill not relevant to our organization. Okay. You're going to click that. And now behind the scenes, if this works, right, it's like, Jessica, can you check your email? And this is going to send now an email directly to Nick, Teresa, Chelsea, and Jessica saying, hey, I just entered this position. And now they can deal with it on the website, doing all the declarations. Okay. So the idea behind Advocacy is you're just going to do something once and it goes wherever it needs to go. You'll also notice that we can automatically mark bills as dead when they've died, right? So either they've been withdrawn, right? It's been renumbered, it has a successor, what have you, right? So we're just going to cross those off. You can also have your various notes here. All right, you can also open these menus to see the full history on that bill. On the right here, you can be adding in your own notes. Again, so anytime you enter a note, right, it's going to automatically save into the database, and it's also going to send an email to the team, right? So there's no more of this need for having to write multiple emails and all that kind of thing. It's now automatic. All right. So if I were to go, all right. Yes. So I think those, as I understand it, are going to be the two main client facing communications that we wanted to introduce, right? Is the email describing, here's the bills that we tracked for you today. And then the ability to log into the portal, right, to be able to quickly update your positions and notes for the
So
team.
Rich, just a couple of notes real quick. So the email is going to be similar to exactly what you've always received in the past, right? You get your daily email that says, here's the bills that came out today. And so those will come, those will still come from us, but they're going to be coming from our system portal instead of from Jessica. The email is going to say bill tracker at advocacyiowa.com. So look for that, make sure it doesn't go to your junk folder and all of those sorts of things. Then the second thing I just note is, so you will be able to respond to that if you want and still continue to do, if you've done it that way in the past and you just want to say monitor or opposed or whatever the case may be. And then if we always ask if you're opposed to a bill to, please, tell us why or what if we maybe already haven't had a conversation to that. And then we'll get that, and then we'll go put it in the system. Or as Rich showed you, you can just log into this system and then put this. So really important for organizations that have multiple folks who are getting the daily bills, to note who's going to be responsible for making the declaration. So have that conversation within your groups about who's going to go into either the system or respond to us on what your declaration will be for the organization.
Great
Yeah, so
question.
to Jim's question in the chat, it's only going to be the bills that have been marked off for your organization.
Great, thank you.
Okay,
so-
that would be overwhelming, Jim.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, Teresa.
Yeah. I've seen some systems though where they don't do that, so it's not, you would think it's obvious, but
Yeah. One thing, there was a question in the chat that I want to address is the login for the advocate system for each client is an individual login. So every client, you'll see at the top of this email where Rich is putting his cursor right now, there's the link to the system, and then every single client will have a login and a password that is included in the email. So you can't go, you don't have to remember it or lose it, etc. It's all the information will be included in the daily bills email based on what we think is relevant to your organization, how we've tracked, just the same we've done in the past.
And a question from Alicia. So basically there's no save buttons, right? So if you go to that, once you select a position, that's saved. Once you kind of enter a note here, you know, click off of it, that's saved. And Brian Campbell's asking if it's an organization or a person login. It's for the organization.
I think Mark asked the same question, so yes.
Can we sort it by our response, see all of those that we've supported and all of those that we've,
Great question. If I set this up as I think I did, which I didn't, let me make that on my note. So usually you can make these columns sortable. And that position one is supposed to be have the ability to sort on it. So I'll put that in my to-do notes. You got us on one of them.
The other thing that I'll tell you is please just bear with
Also-
us, because this is learning for everybody at
Well,
this
you can
juncture,
also,
so.
yeah, you see this search bill table? You can also just kind of put in a term, and that'll look for that text you provided in any of the cells. Right, so if I'm just looking for like withdrawn legislation, that'll come up. If I'm looking for bills that are mentioned reports,
Workforce. Yeah.
so you can kind of search through and find whatever's relevant for you.
Can we assume that any notes entered under the bill and client note is just going to the advocacy strategies team and is confidential?
Great
Yep, so it's
question,
only-
Sherry.
Yeah, and I'll note, Sherry, too, yes, it's just coming to the advocacy strategies team, it's internal. And also one thing we're excited about is then when we put in notes in the system for the bills, so we'll put in, like you've seen in your reports in the past, we'll add our notes on what we heard at the subcommittee, what we're hearing about the bill, etc. And that's all live information. Rich is going to set it up for every half hour to an hour. The system's going to update your client report. So it's live feed to that client report button based on what we're entering into the system.
One caveat, you are correct that it's updating the report every 30 minutes for when you do the newsletter. But every time you click this button, it's going to regenerate. So that's going to be live as of whenever you click it.
Aaron, did you have a question?
Yeah, Teresa, so would this be the preferred way for us to, if we have a question about a bill, putting it in the bill and client note, is that probably the most efficient way to reach out to you? Or do you still prefer us to use text or email? I want to do what's going to work most efficiently for you guys.
Right. Well, I think what's I would always tell you, and I just sent somebody an email saying this, that remember, as session starts, updates will go to our email. So we always aren't responding to our email first during session, right? So it's text or call. So if there's something specific that needs your immediate attention before the end of the day, I always would just continue to tell you to text or email. And I think most of you know that, and that's, part of our operation. And if you haven't already put all of our cell phones in your phone, please do. But then secondarily, so if you do have a question about a bill or whatever, a couple of things. One, because we're not going through and sorting each, client's portal every day, but we will get an email generated if you put a note in, which will then trigger and allow us to respond to that. So that's, if you want to put it in there, so we have a nice, easy tracking of it, that might be a great way to do that, and then allows us to go in and respond to it there.
Sounds good.
This may be jumping ahead on your agenda, but is there any way this information could be embedded onto a website so we could keep our constituents up to date?
Rich is smiling.
I can do whatever you want me to do. So yes, I mean, I'll show you some samples. So, and again, these can be as simple or as complicated as you want. I mean, so here's one where they're really like hook, they break their bills out by categories, right? So it's a little bit more structured. So like all the behavioral health legislation, as more public facing summary. I can do also, tables, it's basically spreadsheets. So if you want it, not that I'm necessarily trying to make more work for myself, right? But you can say, hey, look, take the only caveat, and the reason I think that we went this way is one, it's interactive, and two, because of those notes and things, like you don't want that just being public, right? On any link anyone can get to. So I could take, all the columns except the note field essentially, and just put that, on a web page that then you can just give to your membership if that's something that you'd find of value.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, if it's got an iframe to it, yeah, absolutely, because we use another service for that exact function now, so that could
Okay.
actually make things more accurate for us.
All right, cool. So why don't you follow up through the team there, and we can work that out.
Yeah, we'll do. Thank you.
And I'll add, if I'm doing it for one, it's just as easy to do it for others. So
Looks like Sue.
I like it. Go ahead, Sue.
Yeah, this looks great. Thank you very much for bringing this efficiency to us. I do have a question. If you click on the bill number, does it link to all of the information we can get on the Iowa legislative page? For instance, the other groups that are in support of it are monitoring. Does it go back to this page?
yeah, so there's two links right now. One, the bill number will go to the Iowa bill book, right? And then you have the latest text, and that'll just take you to the latest version.
Great, thank you.
So in the past, that has been we used to put the links in, and then that became a challenge. And then we just said, here's the link and put in your bill number. So this is one of my things I've wanted to be able to come back to for a really long time. Just a major efficiency is being able just to click on it and take you exactly there. So I'm super excited. Rich doesn't know how happy he's made me.
I think you touched on this earlier, but when bill numbers change or versions change or things like that, will that be swept out of this report then?
Yes, I mean, so basically, and I'll talk with the team about how they exactly want to handle that. But you can see, for instance, like this bill got renumbered, right? So I know that in my system, right? So option one is I can still list it here, right? Just cross it out and say this bill has died, essentially, right? And then when this is the live version, it will by default auto track the next version of the bill, right? And it's just going to start though, but it's not going to have a position or anything. I'm not going to carry that over, just because okay, the bill's on your list now. Once there's a successor.
So that'll be the same because we've not done that before. We've always sent a because sometimes, there's amendments and changes and whatever else. So we want to make sure that you guys are looking at those, but that'll just be something that we'll ask you guys to do, is go in there and make those declarations again. And
And
just a
because
friendly.
it would have a new track date, right, it would
Mhm.
show up on your daily email as essentially as it is. It's a new bill, new track date for that client.
Just like we've seen before. And I think what'll be interesting about this is because it'll be they're in the system based on whether or not they're dead or alive, but what is their last function, right? Or what's their last action? And so as the new bill comes out, that's where the action and activity is going to be, as opposed to this where it's the predecessor is not.
Yep. Mhm.
Aaron, you had a question?
Yeah, and this might be go a little bit too deep, but regarding whether it might be an outward facing tool for us to use, as we were just talking about. I'm wondering if that is the case, we might want to put in a note for saying like recommended action for farmers union members. Call your legislator or call this committee member, or maybe just maybe another column might be a talking point to stress on this.
Aaron, let me show you a cool feature you might like. So this is based out of one in Connecticut, right? But the basic concept is the same, right? So we can add in here, in wherever we want it, a link to basically email, in this case, the committee members, right? So you might say, hey, look, we want to, Teresa, these are the ones we care about, as you know, when you're doing your advocacy work. So you just create a link in that email or in that web page, right? And they can click a button and it'll pull up an email to all the people you specified. Now, the cool thing here is because this is coming through their personal email system, right? It's not going through like a voter voice mass market straight
Right.
to spam system. It's coming from their personal emails. It has a higher likelihood of getting through whatever filters, have been put in place.
Wow. Awesome.
So yeah, that's something that we can work on down, as part of that service too.
I think Teresa's already mentioned this, but this is definitely in development. So as these features we discuss, we'll work with individual clients on what fits their needs. But we want to get the system up and running, and then we'll work with you along the way on these other items. I think it's just going to be a great tool for lots of our clients. We just got to figure out how it all works for everyone as we get started with session here.
Speaking of that, as we get started with session, I know everybody's going to be running hard as of next week. Could we do a test on this? I mean, would there be a way prior to session, you could send us our login, et cetera, so that we can make sure it's not going to spam, so that we're all on board? Would that be possibly a good way to make sure it's working?
Yeah, I mean, from a technical side, I mean, if you want to just take one of the, I can show them how, just take a couple bills from last session for each client, just put it in their client list, and then we can do a real send of the declaration email, and that should cover both. You'd get this email, make sure that's going through, and it'll have your login information.
Rich, do you think we could do that by Friday?
You can do it. You're the ones entering the bills as far as I know. So unless you want me to just put a random ones in there, I can do that too.
I think let's just do a test so everybody's not confused, especially maybe somebody who hasn't done the training yet and they're going to get this. So let's just create a test, and it can be the same for everybody. And then I think that'll be the best approach.
So I'll just put a couple bills. So if you get an email, the legislation, don't think that it's relevant. It's literally just a test, just putting some random bills in there.
Other questions from the group?
Well,
We're
if not-
interested.
Oh.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Alicia.
I was just gonna say, if we're interested in getting a direct interface on our website with the bills that we're tracking for, public consumption, who should we contact about that?
I was just gonna go there, Alicia. So,
you.
yeah, no. And so go ahead and reach out to whoever is your primary contact. So if it's Chelsea or me or Nick, go ahead and reach out to us and let us know based on what you know today, what additional features you might be interested in. And then, like Rich said, if we're doing one for one, it's probably just as easy to do it for another. So, and so just reach out to us individually. And then I was going to say, just take the test run. And then as we're going through the first week or two of session, because we're not sure how quickly each chamber is going to be introducing bills. So when the floodgates open and the bills start coming through, as you have questions, feel free to, we're going to have you actually reach out to Jessica, because we want you to have a point person. Actually, let me change that. If you want something outward facing, email Jessica. So it's admin@advocacyiowa.com. Nick, will you put that in the chat? And then everybody should have it, but so go ahead and email that to Jessica. We'll let her manage those requests and just write what you're looking for in that space, or how we might be able to make it a little bit easier for you. So we will continue to send weekly your legislative update, right? So last year we transitioned that to a constant contact emailing. And so your report will still come via that way. And Nick, this is where you might have to jump in, but I think then there will just be a link to your advocate connection, which will have your most up-to-date bill tracking. So think of that as your bill tracking spreadsheet that you've had, but it will just be more in depth, and it's something you don't have to necessarily wait for, because you have access to it now all of the time, right? And
Yep, we're gonna
yeah.
just embed the link to the client report in the constant contact weekly update happenings at the Capitol update we do on Fridays usually.
So just so you know what to expect from us on your weekly communications, which we really pride ourselves on. We know that not every lobbying team does that at the State House, and it's something we're very, very proud of. And so communication is our most essential thing that we do with you each and every day. And so we wanted to just make sure that on, improving the timeliness of that for everybody was really important to us. So if you have any needs, reach out to Jessica. If you have any questions, reach out to Jessica. She'll either get in contact with Rich and find out the answer, or respond with you on or walk you through what needs to be done to help make sure that things are running smoothly on your end.
Sounds good. All right, so any more questions before I have to go, or going once, going twice? Sold.
All right.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good rest of your
Great
day.
stuff.
Everybody.